everybody, this is Jen Kleinhens.
And I'm Rob Vose.
And you are listening to another episode of Everybody Hates Your Brand, a podcast where we talk about our thoughts and opinions on marketing, from customer experience to brand and everything in between. Join us today as we talk about age in marketing. Is it really just a number?
So this podcast had a catalyst, and the catalyst was the birthday of one Jen Kleinhens this week.
Yeah.
Happy birthday.
Yay, thank you.
And it got us thinking about two kind of areas we wanted to talk about, really, in relation to age in marketing. So one was, there's been a debate for some time now around the idea of ageism in marketing, and very specifically agency side. And whether once a day we want to talk about a little bit about, do we think that's the actual case? Why is it? And what can we do about it? And then the other part that ties in eventually, but is around what I would call the lazy obsession with talking about generations of people, whether that's boomers, millennials, whatever it is, as entirely homogenous groups.
Okay, boomer.
Which I'm not a boomer.
I couldn't resist.
X. How dare you?
We're talking about age. We have to say okay, boomer at least once.
But the point being that the idea of targeting by generations and what are the flaws in that. So those are kind of two areas that we wanted to talk about. So if we start with the ageism thing, there's a few sort of stats that I've been pulling out because, I will give my age. I am now the grand old age of 43.
Oh my.
Which I can't quite get my head around. And
it's not that old.
Even it feels like it. Even when I was been agency side at DDB, I think I started when I was about 37. I think I moved to Australia. So I was old, even by agency standards then. So here's some sort of stats. Okay. So this one comes from Bob Hoffman, who's a fantastic, again, good cantankerous old man from advertising, and talks about age a lot. So while people over 50 comprise 42% of adults in the US, they comprise only 6% of agency employees. It's even more pronounced in creative departments where people over 50 make up about the 0% of the population. This one's a good one. According to an IPA excellence paper written by AMV BBDO's strategy director. Wow. We really need to have a podcast about agency branding, because what is that?
Oh my.
Olivia Stubbings. The over 50s represent just 6% of Adland's workforce, so a similar number. To put that in perspective, 22% of those in finance are over 50, 28% in medicine, 30% in science, and 35% in law.
Can I ask a question I don't think we have the answer to? Where do all these people go?
It's a good client side. Generally, I think. And then a chap called Mark Reed, who I believe is the CEO of WPP.
Oh, so yes, he got in some hot water.
He did, when he said, kind of a fairly sort of throwaway line, that the average age of somebody who works at WPP is less than 30. They don't hark back to the 1980s, luckily. And it's not just those kind of stats that bear it out. The sort of the attitudes of people also bear that out. So according to Digiday research, I'll link all this, 54% of employees with more than 15 years of experience believe they've experienced ageism at ages.
So wait, so let's do some quick math. So if you started working after university or college, you're what, 22?
21, 22.
21, 22. Yeah. So these are people who are what then? 36?
36, yeah.
Wow.
And older, obviously. Yeah, I believe they've experienced ageism.
Yes.
Now, I can't say I've ever experienced direct ageism, but I do remember being at DDB and feeling, unless you were in a super senior position, like you were the chief creative officer or an MD or a really senior managing partner, I was old. I was well above the average age, I would say. If I think about my team and I think about the rest of the people there, I was definitely on the old side. Let's put it that way. So thank you to Simone Blakers for hiring me in the first place. And sort of got thinking about why that is, and I think there's two parts to that. Well, maybe more, but the idea that I would argue, controversial, it's not controversial, it's probably just a fact, the agency model is based on cheap labour and high turnover because the margins are so terrible. So if you think about, at the moment, especially where agencies are pressured there are less retainers, more project work. They're obviously pitching, which means that they've got to upskill and downskill pretty quickly if they lose or gain clients. That the idea is that you, and the cost and the margins are so crap because obviously the agency model is still based on, payment on production, and margins are so tight, and procurement companies are involved, and all this stuff's happening that's putting downward pressure. It's fundamentally partly a costing. Older people are more expensive.
Well, it's difficult too because I feel like advertising is not scalable, but it's not really scalable. Do you know what I mean? Like if you have a poster that has to get created or a TV commercial or whatever, like you create the TV commercial, and unless you're doing like media brokerage or something like that, if you're just creating the creative, you make the TV commercial and it goes out to people, but you're not paid usually based on like how many awards it wins or how many times it's shown or any of that. You're basically paid to like create a TVC or TV commercial, and that's it.
Yeah, and I think there's a flaw we should discuss in the future there around agency modeling. And, we in terms of, we talked about this talking about the pitching things we hated about advertising pitching. One of them that you're not. Advertising agencies are paid for production. They're not paid for the quality of the thinking or the quality of the creative, all those kind of things. Now, if you're a super good agency, if you're Adam and Eve DDB, I'm sure you can charge a lot more than a smaller agency down the road kind of thing. But it's still based on that kind of concept largely, which I think is a bit weird. Rory Sutherland, who is mentioned on this podcast before, who is Ogilvy's vice chairman, said he's got a couple of reasons. Advertising, by failing to ally itself to any recognisable science or body of knowledge, does not really pay a premium for experience.
Ooh, say that again. Say that slower.
This is good, this is.
It's good.
And it ties into what we talked about last week with the Byron Sharp stuff about his book that came out in 2010. He's saying that there are immutable laws in there.
Yes.
So Rory said, we're on first name.
Yes, we're totally on a first name basis.
Rawls. Advertising, by failing to ally itself to any recognisable science or body of knowledge, does not really pay a premium for experience. There is no mental framework on which you can hang a lifetime of accumulated experience. This means that we habitually value youth and vitality over wisdom and maturity. And the second point was, engineers, doctors, lawyers have the advantage of an argument from authority. We have no such luxury. Every argument, every point of view has to be defended from scratch, which I think is interesting. So I think it ties into the obsession with the new that we've talked about multiple times on this podcast about digital magpies, that we seem to think, and we've talked about this, the unchanging person.
Yes, the unchanging man or woman, but it's
me saying
he called it the unchanging man in the 60s.
I know.
Mankind.
But that idea that you and I think believe, which is that Snapchat, TikTok, whatever's the new thing, is a tactic. It doesn't necessarily fundamentally change the motivations of that people have. It might amplify them and speed them up and those kind of things.
Right.
But people's behaviours are still, and motivations are still, they still stand.
Yes.
And
it's an interesting one, though, because I can kind of see the flip side of it, too, which is especially more of like the brand-led agencies. I mean, they're paid to be like on the bleeding edge of culture. They're paid to kind of know what's next, what's coming, what's cool, I think is a big part of it. I mean, and there's sort of this pervasive belief that's very problematic, I think, that cool is good and cool is young and cool is attractive and cool is a certain sort of like standard or norm that people want to like crack the code of, and they think that it's only by getting people that fit a certain kind of mold, be that age or look or education or whatever, that's part of it.
I think that obsession with youth is flawed, and we'll come to that in a minute. But in short, they haven't got any money. But older people are more likely.
They don't
to
have any money yet.
But we'll come to that. But there's a couple of things that I've read that kind of feel quite insidious about the way in which agencies and sort of use language to not say we don't want old people, but they use different terms. So this idea that if you're over 50, you don't understand digital, which everything's digital anyway now, so it's a stupid point of view to say. But this idea that I want somebody who's a digital native or who grew up in the social age.
I have a real issue with that, considering this stat around the most successful startup, and startup being like scalable, usually digital, making some assumptions here. But the age of successful startup CEOs it's I think on average 42.
Yeah.
And nobody who's 42 years old was a digital native. I don't understand why exactly.
Well, and I also think
this is a critical piece of the puzzle for people.
I also think the idea that somebody my age is not a digital native is flawed too.
Well, that's ridiculous. Nobody's like no one woke up and was a doctor.
Yeah.
They're a native doctor.
So I grew up.
You can't learn how to do things.
I grew up when I was a kid. I was born in 1977.
Yeah.
And 3 big things happened: the Queen's Silver Jubilee, Star Wars, and me being born.
The third one.
But so I grew up when I was a kid. It was all cassette tapes and old-fashioned physical media and all that kind of stuff. But it doesn't make me incapable now of having a Spotify Premium or using Netflix or being on TikTok or all those kind of things.
Yeah, well,
it's absurd. The idea that you're not, because you're not,
You know who else wasn't a digital native? Steve Jobs.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so there you go. We'll just, when in doubt, reference Steve Jobs. Or quote Steve Jobs.
And I think the cost one is an interesting one, though, because I do think there's this bit about it's cheaper. You can just hire somebody young, especially if they're account managers or even creatives, planners, whatever it is. You can hire people young, work them hard because they haven't got kids, they haven't got the accoutrements of life that you kind of pick up along the way. They haven't realised maybe their own worth yet, and they're just excited to be in a cool quote unquote environment, and they're cheap. And they always know there's somebody new coming down the pipeline, and I think there's 2 elements to it. I think there's a push element in the sense that as you get older, the hours you work in agencies and all those kind of things become less and less palatable potentially, and I think you do see some of the stats that I've seen. People do go to client side, not that you don't work long hours in client side sometimes, but it's a bit more predictable. You haven't got pitches and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I think you get paid for something different, a different set of skills. And I think there's also an assumption in agencies that I think clients maybe don't work as hard, which having been a client, I would disagree with.
Yeah, me too.
But it's a different skill set for sure.
But I also think the push element is, so there's this bit about I don't want to do this anymore, but there's also that element of we don't want to pay for you anymore.
Well, it's like consultancies, but it's like up or out. I mean, pick one.
And they were saying that a lot of the people who are over 50, I say they, who are they? The wizards? No, like this kind of, I was reading an article about this idea that if you are over 45, 50 and you're still in the game, you are either in a highly senior position in the agency.
Right.
Or you've started your own thing.
Maybe. Yeah. So
those are the kind of, that's what protects you. Either you've worked your way up the ladder to the point where you're the chief creative officer or whatever it is.
Own everything.
Or you have built, this is mine, so I'm staying. There's no kind of 2 ways about it. It was interesting. Right. I remember there was a line. I'll try and find out where this was from, but this made me laugh. Our industry is comprised of inexperienced staff who systematically ignore the world's most valuable audience. No wonder our influence in the bedroom.
Whoops. And that's it for
today's episode. I'm dead. No wonder our influence in the boardroom.
Oh,
Jesus
God.
Christ.
No, it really is. We've earned that not suitable for work.
It's waning. Oh, Rob. This is what happens when you get old, you see.
Oh, no.
But so I think there's definitely that element of it's cheaper. And the older you get, the less... I mean, this might be not true. I don't know how true this is. But the less like you are to want to work insane hours. Because you have, again, the accoutrements of life. I don't
know if that's true.
I'd be interested. I don't have any stats on it.
Yeah.
But like, if you've got 2 or 3 kids, do you want to be working agency side? Maybe you do. Maybe you've got a great... I'm not saying... And to be absolutely clear, we're not saying all agencies are terrible.
No, not at all.
This is general trends.
Yes.
Which I think are fairly robust in terms of what we're saying. It's just really interesting. But I think the problem then kind of translates. There's an obsession with youth at both client and agency side, I think, in terms of people who work there, especially agency, but also the people who are targeted with marketing campaigns.
Yes, part two.
Yeah, so kind of, but they're connected in that way, I think. The amount of briefs I've seen with lazy targeting and generalizations around an age group of 10, 15 years breadth
Millennials.
boggles the mind. Well, exactly. So I think there's two
problem.
bits there. I think there's one that's the laziness there, and I think secondly, this obsession with youth means that people with money, which is more than likely older people, get excluded from targeting.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the reasoning that I've heard is because if you target young, cool people, then everybody else will go like, oh, young, cool people do this, so I should do this too. Or this idea that like, well, we'll target young, cool people, and when they become older people, they'll be loyal to our brand because we targeted them when they were,
but that doesn't, 20. All of Brian Sharp says that's nonsense.
It is, it's true. And
it's a great highlight. According to Campaign Simon Gwynn, the over 50s make up a third of the UK population, but hold 80% of the wealth.
Yeah. Sorry, millennials.
But yeah, sorry, I'm Gen Z. But not only does this older age group have more money, they're also not afraid to spend it. So Nielsen did a report. So it's well established that boomers have the most money to spend. There's a bias to believe that older people spend less of what they have. Whilst this may have been true of the generations of older consumers that preceded the boomers, it simply does not apply to this generation. The over 50s spending is so high, in fact, they account for the majority of value in many categories. So 60% of all car sales. Lonely Planet claim they account for 58% of spending in travel and tourism. Barclays believe they're responsible for 58% of hospitality and leisure sales. Kantar found they account for 50% of health and beauty value sales and 49% of FMCG sales. To put it bluntly, the over 50 is the most valuable generation in the history of marketing, and that they are ignored by almost all advertising. It is estimated that only 5% of advertising dollars are targeted to adults aged 35 to 64.
Wait, how many advertising dollars?
5%.
5%?
Are targeted to adults aged 35 to 64. Imagine how small that figure would be if it were to focus in on the over 50s only.
See, I've always thought this would be a great idea for either an agency, which I think there are a few that target older people, or a business. Like, this is the thing, like, you would go on Shark Tank or Dragon's Den and you would pitch, oh, my target is 55 plus, and they would look at you like you're crazy. But actually... It's very savvy because they've got the money, they want to spend it on themselves. The kids are out of the house, and
I think there's people of older age ranges don't see advertising as they see them not being targeted. So Sun Life conducted a survey of 50,000 people, and 3/4 thought that they were never represented in mainstream ads.
Never.
And if they were this kind of Werther's Originals. Did you have Werther's Originals in America?
We do have them, yes.
Okay, fine.
And they are also targeted the same way.
But everybody who's over 55 is some Werther's Original sucking, cardigan wearing thing. Person.
Oh, glory insurance.
And it ties into, again, what we've talked about. So we've just talked about over 50s as being this valuable thing. But in reality, and that's true at a macro level.
Yes.
But again, targeting by...
a
20,
big giant
30
hunk
years
of
is
ages.
So dumb. It's not even.
Yeah, I mean, even what we've just been saying for the past few minutes is not true. I mean, it's a heuristic. It's a shortcut to say people over 55 have more money. But that's if you drill down to individual people, or you decided to parse that slightly differently. Of course, that wouldn't be true because it's not. Someone who, for instance, is living in like the mountains of Kentucky with a high school education, who's 55 plus, has a very different financial picture than someone who's living in New York City.
Absolutely.
And is a partner in a consulting firm or something. I mean...
Absolutely. And I think whatever age group you're talking about, whether it's that kind of Werther's Original pipe-smoking, cardigan-wearing picture of over 55s, or that millennials are all, liberal, environment-caring... they want experiences, not
big brush
products and all that sort of stuff. Is just... What I don't get is that it's such self-evident horseshit that that, and maybe because of my CRM background, I don't know. That's not a segment. That's not a group of people. A segment is supposed to be homogeneous within itself.
Homogeneous?
Homogeneous.
Oh, okay. I thought maybe this was a British
homogeneous within
homogeneous.
itself, but heterogeneous to everything else. So different to the other segments.
Yes.
Like
Misi.
What's millennials like? Born in 97 to 2010 or something ridiculous. There's a great stat that
that's not true because I'm a millennial, just barely.
Are you though?
I am a millennial. I'm in all of the definitions. I'm a millennial.
Okay, fine.
Absolutely. There's no because I was too young for Nirvana, and to me that is that's the divider. If you're the right age for Nirvana, then you're.
But in this, there's a this made Jen laugh out loud earlier.
Oh, no.
In the UK alone, there are 78,000 millennials whose children are also millennials.
Oh my god! So just to put that in perspective for those people who are not in the UK, the population in the UK is what, like 65 million. So
yeah,
that's a pretty significant amount of people for 65 million people. It's ridiculous. It just almost 100,000 people are millennials with kids who are also millennials. Let that sink in.
Yeah.
Do the math.
I mean, what is that?
I mean, yeah.
It's just
so who are we targeting? Are we targeting
so ridiculous?
Mom? Are we targeting the kid?
Yeah, exactly.
Why are we saying do they both value experiences and not products? Which, by the way, Bain just did a bunch of. We'll link it. But Bain, the consultancy, did a bunch of research where they found out that now everybody wants products and not experiences. Millennials want products, not experiences.
Because I've always thought that thing about I want experiences is flawed because I can't afford a car.
Wow.
If I could afford a car. I love a car, thanks very much. But again, this idea that...
But also doing stuff is fun. So I don't necessarily take issue with that. I think experience, like there's something to it. But
that's, as human insights go,
yes,
that's up there.
Well,
doing stuff is fun.
Doing stuff is fun.
Trademark.
Not for everybody, though. Not for everybody. As we know, there's a segment of people that don't want to be bothered.
True.
And I'm in both of those segments depending on the day.
But I think there's a couple of... So I think your passions, your habits, your temperaments unite, not generational groupings.
Exactly.
We're throwing out a bunch of different sort of links here, but actually Jen sent me this a few days ago. Some BBH Labs.
It's a great article.
It's fantastic. I posted it on my LinkedIn.
Everyone should read
it looked at this measure of group cohesion. So they asked people in different groupings series of questions and asked what they thought about it, and then figured out what the averages were for across all those questions, and therefore how similar were the answers within certain groups.
Yeah, because so the hypothesis being that if millennials and Gen X and all of this was the right way to group people, then they would have similar answers to the questions based on solely their generation.
And it'd be much higher than sort of the average. They would over-index.
Yes.
But if you look at millennials, Gen X and boomers, not massively different to the rest of the population. Mm-hmm. You're more likely to have a different opinion or higher cohesion score if you floss.
So if you're talking to have the same opinions?
Not same, but more likely than just millennials.
Yeah.
They're crossword fans, they're extroverts, daily nut eaters.
Daily nut eaters?
Make of that what you will.
All right.
Introverts or Orangina drinkers. Remember the old Orangina drink? So this idea...
Or as someone in a French class of mine once called it, orangina.
Yeah. Wow.
I'm sorry, it's what I think every time I see Orangina.
But this idea that millennials are all the same, or all have the same habits, is just... on face value, it's so stupid. So... yes. And I think it's exacerbated in terms of the way in which data is presented. So there was a great... poll by Ipsos Mori, a piece of work that they did, where they kind of this great quote that I found from it. So millennials are the most carelessly described group we've ever looked at. Ooh. Myths and misunderstandings abound, with bad research jumping to general conclusions based on shallow caricatures.
It's because everybody needs a clickbait. Yes, burn. Everybody needs a headline. Mm-hmm. They need clickbait. I mean, and that was true before the internet. It's exacerbated and accelerated by social media and the internet and all of that. But I think that's part of it. It's like you want to be like, what did Mark say? It's like, oh, look, I learned something. I know something.
Yeah, I know something.
Hey,
exactly.
listen to me.
Yeah.
And then they just repeat it and repeat it and repeat it until everybody's saying it pretty soon.
And the problem, again, tying back to the conversation we had with Mark Russell last week, who's Director of Data and Insight at BBDO, Clemenger BBDO in Melbourne, was looking at insight numbers in the right way. So young people have always been vilified. So there's a great quote. This is from Plato. Mm-hmm. what is happening to our young people? They disrespect their elders. They disobey their parents.
Doctor, disrespect your elders.
Doesn't that sound familiar?
Yes.
And what it basically means is, if you're going to make a statement about millennials, say X% of millennials think this, you have to put it in some reference. Or you don't have to. You should put it in some reference. So, what did previous generations think when they were the same age? So you're comparing older people now, but their opinions when they were young, because we know people's opinions change as they get older. They change political stances. They do all sorts of different things as you go through life stages. So saying that millennials think this, well, did my generation, Generation X, think the same when they were kids? Did that? Because otherwise, who cares?
And
it's
maybe
the same
they
as
did,
it's
or
always
maybe
been.
they didn't. I
Exactly.
will reference the great American movie 21 Jump Street, where they send a bunch of college kids, college age, like, what are they supposed to be, like 26, 27, Channing Tatum and Jonah Hill? They send them undercover into a high school in like 2015. It feels like that movie came out a million years ago, but it's not really that old.
It's not that old, no.
And they send them there, and they're like they're anticipating, one's a jock, one's a nerd, and then they get there and everything's different. People care about the environment.
The jock isn't. Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
cool to have a Prius. It's cool to do some other things.
And I think the other thing that this report talks about is the idea that society is changing in general. So attitudes towards women's role in society has changed across most age groups, as has attitudes towards homosexuality or whatever it might be. A lot of those things have changed across all age groups.
Yeah,
but again, and if you read any survey that says millennials think this, without comparing it to older generations when they were young or to other age groups now, it's worthless.
Millennials can't buy houses because they buy avocado toast.
Yeah, I mean, that's just
comes to
nonsense,
mind.
But that kind of thing about it's because it's so easy.
Yeah.
And you can build a plausible story around like avocado.
This is narrative bias. This is the danger of narrative bias, where it's plausible but not true. And everyone loves a story. So like, oh, well, we'll hang our hats on this story and we'll sell this story. And because it's a story, people, they're like nodding along. They get it. They're like, oh, okay. Yeah, this makes sense. Whether it's true or not is a whole different story.
Absolutely.
But, sadly, the truth is a lot of times more messy, more complicated, and won't fit on 20 PowerPoint slides.
Exactly. So I think what we've kind of talked about there, I think, is age in a couple of contexts. We've talked about it in the sense of ageism within agencies, which I think is a problem. I think the industry acknowledges a problem. There's a lot of articles about it. One of my favourite people to follow is Cindy Gallop.
Oh, yeah, she's great.
Who's amazing, both in terms of campaigning for a reduction in sexism in agencies.
She just seems cool.
She's amazing, but also in terms of ageism and this idea that we talked about cheaper labour force, etc., etc. This again, I realise we're doing a lot of quotes here, but I think they're all trying to add kind of colour and context. They don't understand that experience and expertise are incredibly time and cost efficient, and that they could be making huge amounts more money by hiring, promoting, valuing, retaining older employees.
This is true.
So we talked a lot about that, and I think it's something that's a structural problem that will only change with some concerted effort.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think diversity of thought is one of these things, and the age, of course, is a part of that. Like, a lot of things go into diversity, but I definitely think age and the way people think, the way people are educated, in terms of like, are they more mathy? Are they more data driven? Are they more creative? Like, did they used to be like a psychologist or, an artist? Like all of these things I think are great because when you have to solve problems, you need different ways of thinking about it. And that would include things like life experience. I mean, it's interesting, we talk about age and it being, my birthday and everything. It's easy to kind of get a little sad, a little depressed because I'm getting older. I'm doing some things. But I think having a discussion about age in the workplace, I would be remiss if I did not mention the sort of female side of this equation.
Yes, I think that's
which
fair.
is not just getting too old,
but
being too
intersectional.
young. Well, being too young, right? So this is something that I have struggled with in my career is, I would like to flatter myself and believe that I look much younger than I am, but, my voice sounds young. My mom, who we won't say how old my mom is or she'll fly to England and kill me.
She'll murder you in your sleep. Yeah.
Not that we should be ashamed. I mean, it's our age, right? But she has a very youthful voice. I mean, people think she's, in her early 20s on the phone and things.
You sound very similar.
Yeah, and we sound very similar. So, like, this is something I've heard a lot of women talk about, and it really feels true. You're either too young, and they tell you to wait in line. Oh, it's not your turn yet. You got to wait. And, you watch people who are younger than you, less experienced than you, get promoted and do things and stuff. And then you're suddenly too old. Oh, my God. There's no perfect age, right? Like, it does feel like women sort of get the short end of the stick when it comes to the age.
They're getting kicked in multiple directions.
You get it in both directions.
Both gender, age on top of that.
Exactly.
It was interesting what you were talking about earlier around diversity of thought, because the BBH Labs thing does some work looking at that group cohesion and cohesion of thought by profession. Mm-hmm. Guess who is the most like-minded, quote-unquote, industry?
Is it marketing?
It's marketing.
Oh, man.
Followed by teaching, the armed forces, farming, law, IT, construction, HR, and sales.
Whoa. So uniformity of thought is higher in marketing than it is in the military?
Than it is in the military.
In the military?
Yeah.
Oh, my. Marketing. We have some things to talk about.
And if you, we're talking about, it's like that the scene in, this references it, the scene in Life of Brian, where all those people turn up at Brian's house. It's like, you're all individuals. And they all turn back and go, in unison, go, yes, we're all individuals. And I think if you want to learn a bit more about it, market orientation, go back and listen to episode 1 of our podcast if you haven't already, because we talk about the idea that, marketing is likes to think that everyone's like itself, and it very much isn't. And the other bit we talked about is about the targeting by age and by generations. I think both Jen and I would say stop that. I think we'd also say representation of all age ranges in advertising. It's interesting. Do you think part of it comes from brands? So as a brand, you don't necessarily want to be perceived. You don't want to be associated with, because people worry that you're Saga or something, So for those of you outside of
it's
this
interesting.
Country, Saga's a brand specifically for over 55s, I think it is.
Yeah, I don't actually know what that is.
They do holidays and cruises and various things.
Oh, I see. It's like maybe.
And they do a bunch of other stuff as well, but yeah.
Yeah, well, it's an interesting one because I noticed I was on the Whistles website. So Whistles is a clothing brand in the UK, and they have started to feature models with a lot of diversity, and age being one of those factors, right? Which actually, I kind of had that thought when I first saw that. I thought, well, I wonder, is this going to do something to their brand perception? Or are they doing it for a reason? Is their customer older? But at the end of the day, I think they're just doing it because it's like the right thing to do, because they know the people shopping on their website are not all like 22 years old or whatever, like the ideal.
They're facing reality.
Yeah, it's based in reality. And I should mention, I think the other brand that does that is Jigsaw. But, if you look at, I don't want to name any name. I don't want to name and shame, really. But if you look at some of the, like, quote-unquote cooler brands or whatever, like, you don't necessarily see that diversity of age, which really reflects, like, who their customer might be. Because I think that's a part of it, too. I mean, everything is online. Everything's e-commerce. Like, there's nothing, like... If there's a store that a bunch of like 13-year-old girls are walking into, like a physical store, and it's like a clothing store, like me as someone who is older than that slightly, I would see that and go like, oh, am I like, is that going to be something that like is going to appeal to me? Is it going to be something I wear to work, or is it all going to be like belly shirts and like, I don't know what teenagers wear now, but not stuff that I would wear to work generally, I would say. But if you're online, I mean, maybe I'm going to go to ASOS and like find some cute earrings, like go with something with an outfit that like works with work, that, or like a suit. So I think you can shop a lot more piecemeal. And so it just makes business sense to say like, well, if a lot of different kinds of people, however, you're going to define that, are shopping, at our store or, going through the e-commerce portal or whatever, like, obviously we should reflect those people. And in fact, there is a behavioral psychology principle. That's right. I'm never going to let a whole episode go without doing one of these, called the self-reference effect, where they find that, when people see themselves represented in something like the Dove Real Beauty campaign, which if you're not familiar, we will link it, but essentially like it's an older campaign now. I think it's 15 years old. But when it came out, it was really revolutionary because it showed like real women with real women's bodies, which is, imperfections and no Photoshop and all of this stuff. It was very radical, but when for the time, but even, the example of, we can link the story I wrote about it, but even the example of having mannequins in like Lady Foot Locker that have muscles. Like, well, of course they should. It's like an athletic store. Like I remember going to an Under Armour store in Tyson's Corner, Virginia, in the mall, and seeing a mannequin with like hamstring muscles and stuff. And I was like, I was looking at it. I was like, well, of course this makes sense. Yeah. Like if you want to be athletic, if you want to like lift weights or do CrossFit or whatever, like why would you want to look at a mannequin that like doesn't reflect your reality, right? So this is the whole thing with the self-reference effect. Basically, like when people see themselves reflected in advertising, like they like the brand more. It makes sense to them because it's like, oh, well, people like me, however you want to define like me, shop here. And also, it's just the right thing to do.
Yeah, it's why the broader scale, something like Black Panther, rest in peace, Chadwick Boseman, was so important. For a lot of communities across the world. Why Captain Marvel is the first, I'm a big superhero fan, as you can tell. But those kind of films that are marquee films.
Yeah.
Anyway, we've kind of got off the point.
Well, the point is, I will always talk about behavioral science in one of these episodes.
That is
you always talk
point.
About Marvel. So
that is true. But I think
2 ticks.
So, in short, hire older people, hire a mix of ages.
Diversity on all scales.
Brands, please don't ignore over 50s, over 45s, over 50s. They got a lot of money and you're shooting yourself in the foot. But I think Byron Sharp has taught us.
Oh, Byron Sharp.
Penetration, cast the net wide.
What do we call him? The Dark Lord?
What is Mark of Penetration.
Mark Ritson calls him that, which
I love.
Is terrifying.
And if you're going to segment,
yes,
for the love of God, don't segment on big age generations. Do it based on attitudes or what things they're buying or whatever it might be.
Or anything.
Behaviors, attitudes, whatever it is.
Yes.
Don't use age. It's absurd.
So that's it for this episode of Everybody Hates Your Brand. We hope you enjoyed it. You can find show notes, resources, and more episodes on our website, everybodyhatesyourbrand.com. But before we go, let's leave on a positive note and share what we're loving right now. And in fact, I always throw it to Rob, but this week I'm going first.
Rebellion.
Because I'm ready to go. And in fact, I have a duplicate from last week. So last week... Don't laugh at me. It's still good. They're still doing good stuff. So last week...
It's Peloton or this
It's not Peloton. I wish it was every week. It should be Peloton. I'm sorry. I'm one of those people now. I'll do a whole separate Peloton podcast. Anyway, so this week, again, I am loving IKEA. And you know what? I really love what IKEA is doing. They're doing some cool stuff. We're recording this on an IKEA desk right now, so it's pretty good. So one of the problematic things with IKEA, I've always found, is the disposability of it. Do you know what I mean? Like you go in and you pay like $2 for a dresser or whatever.
Fast furniture.
Yeah, it's like
there's a phrase I've just made.
Fast furniture.
I'm sure somebody said that before, but
I don't
claiming
care.
that they haven't.
We're trademarking it right now on the air. So fast furniture. So like fast fashion. I mean, it has some issues with that as well.
Yes.
Because you kind of want to buy stuff to last. You don't want to fill up a landfill, and also you kind of don't want to buy something that might fall over. To be fair, I've never had a real issue with IKEA furniture, but it's not exactly like heirloom furniture.
No,
let's be real.
No one's passing this. No one on Antiques Roadshow
no.
in 50 years' time, or 100 years' time, or 200 years' time is going to be like, it's a rare Björklund.
Yes.
I'm making that up. Desk or something.
That sounds like it could be right. So this week, IKEA announced a furniture buyback and recycling scheme. Yes. Launching on, or just in time, or on Black Friday. So the BBC described it this way. So they said, under the plan, IKEA will offer vouchers worth up to 50% of the original price to be spent at IKEA stores. And the buyback initiative is going to launch on Black Friday. They said, by making sustainable living more simple and accessible, IKEA hopes that the initiative will help its customers take a stand against excessive consumption this Black Friday and in the years to come. It said in reference to 27 November when lots of retailers offer discounts on their products in case you're a marketing person and listening to this podcast and you don't know what Black Friday is. The international scheme will see customers given vouchers or coupons to spend at IKEA stores, the value of which will depend on the condition of the items they are returning. And that is about it. But
and they're going to resell them on, aren't they? Which everything you mentioned is sort of in good nick. I think they're going to sell them on. I think as pre-owned.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Let's send less to less like knocking down entire forests to make dressers.
And I think one of the things we always want to talk about is the idea of purpose. And I think it's a really nice move. Mine's
sorry.
Oh, sorry, I thought you'd finished.
No, I was just gonna say, I think to your point about the brand purpose thing, it's an example of a brand saying they want to do something, because IKEA has spent a lot of time and energy talking about sustainability in the future and all of this. But a lot of people were very right to point out, well, why are you talking about sustainability when everybody's throwing all of your furniture away and you're knocking down whole forests to build stuff based on the volume of the business that you do? Because I believe they are the biggest furniture retailer in terms of volume that they move, which doesn't surprise me. But it's a good example of them looking at themselves and saying, like, you know what, you're right, so let's do something about it, and putting their money kind of where their mouth is. So I really enjoyed it.
Okay. Mine's a behavioral science.
Oh, no!
What? Turned around in your face.
He's flipped it and reversed it.
I'm not sure I've got the exact terminology right, but my car had to be recalled today, in fact. So I sent my car in to be fixed and the part changed. And one of the things with cars, I think, that's a real difficulty, especially around servicing, and I worked on Volkswagen in Australia, was the idea of how opaque the service process is. So kind of car goes in at one end, and at the other end there's a big bill. And because you don't know anything about cars, you kind of have to pay it. So what I've seen a lot of people have been doing and do really well, I think, and this dealer did this with my car, was to create operational transparency.
Yes.
Talked about before. So I got an email with a link and a personalised video of my car where they kind of literally were showing, testing the
this just happened?
tread. Yeah, testing the tread on my tyres. And showing that I've got a bulge in the tyre, so I need to get that fixed. And a bunch of different other stuff. And I've seen it happen before. I think there's a couple of different ones who do it. And we talked about doing it with Volkswagen. But I think that it's a really great example of operational transparency for a particularly opaque process where no one knows anything about cars. The only thing I would have said to them is, give me a reference point. So if you're saying this is now 5 mil and it needs to be 10, tell me. But I think that's a really nice example. I've seen it in a couple of different dealers do it, but I think it's a really nice mechanic in it, and a good thing for any brand to be able to show how your process works.
Yeah, and I feel like it's not even that. I mean, I think context would be nice, right? But it's the same thing with like YouTube videos. Like we watch people that like detail cars or do other complicated things, and as they give an explanation as they do it, you feel like you're smarter, even if you're not, even if you don't. You couldn't get under the hood and like fix your own car. I mean, I'm sure you could, but I couldn't. You still feel like you've gained, like they're giving you value in a sort of a series of things in which like you don't normally see the value that comes out of what you're paying for.
And I think there's an element of trust too.
Yes.
That you're prepared to show me literally under the hood.
Yeah.
I trust now that you're doing the right thing for me, whether that's the case or not.
Well, you did it. You've wasted another perfectly good half an hour or so with Rob and Jen and the Everybody Hates Your Brand podcast. Again, you can find us on everybodyhatesyourbrand.com and your podcast platform of choice. Have a week.
Take great care and be vigilant.